I fell in love with my couch friend once again. I was grabbing my usual morning coffee and croissant at Cafe Aphrodite when I literally bumped into this tall, muscular guy. Hey, watch it, I snapped, pastry crumbs falling everywhere. Then I got to look at his face. Aaron Gomez? His eyes went wide. Anthony Bradshaw. No way, it is you. Before I could react, he pulled me into one of those back-slapping bro hugs. His broad chest was solid against mine. Damn, you haven't aged a day, Aaron said with a grin. Let me get you a new croissant to replace the one I crushed. We need to catch up. My heart was already running laps in my chest. This was the guy I had a massive crush on back in college, the one who had a way, and here he was, just as handsome and charming as ever. Aaron came back with a fresh croissant, and we found a table outside. As soon as we sat down, it was like no time had passed at all. So you're still in the city? He asked, before taking a sip of coffee. I nodded. Yeah, living my artist dream, running my own gallery these days. What about you, Mr. Entrepreneurial Stud? He chuckled. VC firm in the financial district. Not as fun slinging paint around, but it pays well. No kidding. You always were the smart one. I give him a playful shove. His eyes turned a bit more serious. Hey, can I admit something? I had the biggest crush on you back in the day. I felt the heat rushing to my face. You're joking. Not at all, but you were always with Naomi, so I figured I didn't have a shot. The mention of his ex-girlfriend's name deflated me a bit. Well, she's ancient history now. Aaron reached across the table and put his hand on mine. Then I'm making up for lost time. With that simple touch, it was like electric currents were reconnecting between us after lying dormant for years. I looked into those intense green eyes, and college feelings came flooding back. Aaron gave my hand a squeeze before releasing it. Naomi and I broke up not long after graduation, probably for the best in the long run. No kidding, I don't think I've spoken to her since those days. I tried to sound nonchalant, but my heart was racing. He let out a short laugh. Yeah, we had some good times, but we wanted different things. She was dead, set on this perfect nuclear family track. Aaron shook his head. Anyway, enough about ancient history. You were telling me about your art gallery. I launched into the story of how I started off doing commissions, then rented a small space before the gallery really took off. Aaron listened attentively, nodding and asking questions here and there. When I finally came up for air, he was grinning at me. What? Do I have croissant crumbs on my face or something? You just seem so passionate about your work. It's great to see you found your calling, man. Aaron's smile turned a little shy. Makes me almost wish I'd gotten the courage to pursue other passions back then, if you know what I mean. I knew exactly what he meant. The memory of that long-ago crush came rushing back with full force. Other passions, huh? I said, unable to suppress a smirk. Like what kind of passions are we talking about here? Aaron's cheeks flushed just a bit. Well, you know he leaned in conspiratorially. Back in college, I maybe had some thoughts that went beyond just friendly thoughts about certain people. I felt my heart kick up a notch. Was he actually saying what I thought he was saying? After all these years? No way, I said, trying to keep my cool. You mean you were checking out the guys too? Goddamn, Aaron, why didn't you ever say anything? He let out an embarrassed chuckle and ran a hand through his hair. Oh, dude, it was college. I was already getting grief for being a business major instead of doing something cooler. Didn't want to rock the boat any more than I already was, you know? I nodded in understanding. We'd come from different worlds back then. Him with his frat boy connections, me with my artsy rebel crowd. But the lingering looks had definitely been mutual. Well, I'm not letting this opportunity go to waste again. I flagged down our waiter and asked for the check, making sure to leave a nice tip. How about we get out of here and really catch up? Aaron's eyes lit up with excitement. Absolutely. Lead the way, Picasso. I led Aaron back to my place, a recently renovated loft in one of the trendier neighborhoods. As we walked, I could feel the anticipation building between us. Nice digs, he said once we were inside, looking around appreciatively. The starving artist look really works for you. You're one to talk, Mr. Moneybags VC guy. I grabbed a couple beers from the fridge and handed him one. Aaron accepted it with a grin and took a pull, to finally cutting loose after all these years. Our bottles clinked together. I couldn't help watching the way his lips wrapped around the bottle mouth as he drank. Get it together, I scolded myself. Setting his beer down, Aaron moved in closer until we were practically chest to chest. You know, I gotta admit his voice was low. I'm really glad we ran into each other today. I could feel the heat radiating from his body. Oh yeah, why's that? Instead of answering, he cupped my face in those big, strong hands and kissed me. A jolt of electricity shot through me as our lips met. Aaron broke the kiss first, his eyes smoky. That's why. I grabbed double handfuls of his shirt and pulled him back against me, crashing our mouths together again. This time there was nothing gentle about it, just years of pent-up hunger and need finally being unleashed. Our kissing quickly turned heated and hungry. I walked us backwards toward the bedroom, tugging at Aaron's shirt until he broke the lip, locked long enough to yank it off over his head. Goddamn, the guy had been hitting the gym hard. His chest and abs were ridiculously ripped and defined. I ran my hands over the contours, finally getting to touch the body I'd fantasized about for years. Aaron groaned deep in his throat. Then in one smooth motion, he scooped me up and deposited me on the bed. He stood there gazing down at me, eyes dark with lust. Like what you see, I couldn't resist teasing as I stretched out for his viewing pleasure. Instead of answering, he crawled onto the bed and covered my body with his, the hard planes of muscle pillowing me underneath. Our mouths clashed together again, all teeth and tongues battling for dominance this time. I hooked a leg over his hip, pressing our lower bodies flush. We were both straining against our jeans now, hard and ready. Aaron rocked his hips, dragging delicious friction against me. "Fuck!" Aaron, I gasped against his mouth. "This was really happening after all this time!" His lips trailed down my neck, teeth grazing my pulse point. "Been waiting years to hear you say my name like that, baby." I tugged insistently at his belt buckle. "Then show me what else you've been waiting for." Things heated up quickly from there. Clothes went flying, hands and mouths explored hot bare skin, and soon we were completely tangled up in each other. Aaron pinned me to the mattress, holding my wrists above my head as he kissed a blazing trail down my chest. When his lips closed around one nipple, sucking hard, I arched off the bed with a strangled cry. "You're so responsive," he rumbled in that low, gravelly tone that shot straight to my groin. "Making up for lost time, remember?" "Don't tease me," I panted, squirming against him. "I want—" But he cut me off, slanting his mouth over mine again in a fierce, hungry kiss. Our bodies slotted together perfectly, sweat slicked and straining. When Aaron finally breached me, thick and steady, I thought I might actually self-combust from the sheer heat between us. He moved with deep, controlled strokes, unrelenting. I clawed at his back, legs locked around his hips, just holding on for the ride as he pounded into me, years' worth of longing, and what-ifs were finally getting their release. We found our rhythm quickly, moving together with an intuitive push and pull, like our bodies knew this dance all along, just waiting to be set free. I was already starting to shake apart at the seams. "Dear God, I'm gonna—" Aaron's thrusts became more erratic, losing their rhythm as he chased his own release. "That's it, baby, come for me." His gravelly words were the final push I needed. With a strangled shout, I came hard between our sweat, slicked bodies, every muscle drawn taut. Aaron groaned deep in his chest, hips snapping roughly as he followed me over that edge. I could feel him pulsing hotly inside me as he rode out his orgasm. Finally, he collapsed on top of me, both of us panting and delirious. After a moment, Aaron raised himself up on his elbows to gaze down at me with hooded eyes. I couldn't help but grin up at him stupidly. He cut me off with a long, deep kiss. "Oh, we're just getting started," he rumbled against my lips. True to his word, we proceeded to thoroughly christen every surface of my bedroom that night. At one point, I was riding him cowboy style, using the floor, to ceiling windows as a sort of viewing deck over the city skyline. Everyone can see I gasped, suddenly self-conscious, despite the exhibitionist thrill. Aaron merely groaned and palmed my ass harder to deepen our grind. Let them watch and be jealous then? By the time we finally crashed, utterly spent, the first hints of dawn were streaking the sky outside. I was deliciously sore in all the right places as we tangled together, chests still heaving. "Remind me again why we waited so damn long to do that," Aaron mumbled, nuzzling against my neck. I laughed breathlessly and pulled him even closer. "No idea. But I'm making up for it from now on." In the warm morning light, I studied Aaron's relaxed features as he slept beside me. Hard to believe this gorgeous man had been just a fantasy for so many years. Running a hand along the sculpted plane of his chest, I marveled at how incredibly natural and right this felt, like we'd been lovers for years, rather than just experiencing our first charged night together. Aaron stirred under my touch, those intense green eyes fluttering open. A slow, sensual smile curved his lips as he pulled me on top of him. "Well, good morning to you too," I laughed, bracing my forearms on either side of his head. He slid those big hands down to cup my ass, giving an appreciative squeeze. "Did you really think I'd let you rest after that performance last night?" The look in his eyes made my stomach flip deliciously. Aaron rolled us smoothly, pinning me to the mattress as he sealed his mouth over mine in a knee-weakening kiss. We made languid, indulgent love in those early hours. No more pent-up frenzy, just a rediscovery of each other's bodies through long, sumptuous exploration. Afterwards, we lay tangled in the sweaty sheets, limbs intertwined as we dozed and traded lazy kisses. At one point, I caught Aaron gazing at me with an utterly content look on his stupidly handsome face. "What?" I asked, feeling self-conscious under that warm regard. He shook his head slowly. "Just thinking how incredible you are, how we could have been doing this for ages." My heart turned over at his wistful words. I cupped the back of his neck to pull him close. "We'll just have to make up for it then," I murmured against his lips. "Starting right now?" From that morning on, Aaron and I were pretty much inseparable. Not that either of us was complaining about it. We fell into an easy rhythm, splitting our time between his upscale apartment downtown and my artsy loft space. Some nights we'd cook elaborate meals together, making a mess of the kitchen. Others we'd just order in and mess around between courses, you catch my drift. During the days, we'd grab lunch or coffee breaks together whenever our schedules allowed. More often than not, those interludes ended up involving heavy makeout sessions and some exhibitionistic groping against the office bathroom stall. We just couldn't keep our hands off each other in those early, heady days of finally coming together. Years of longing and what ifs had given way to an insatiable hunger. Out in public, I loved the little moments that made my heart flutter, like when Aaron would drape a possessive arm around my shoulders or steal kisses whenever he could, the subtle reminders that broadcast, "This sexy man is mine." Not that we were trying to hide our relationship either, quite the opposite. In fact, when we'd run into Aaron's buddies from his firm or college days, he'd introduce me with a proud smile, his hand securely locked with mine. "This is my boyfriend, Anthony." And I'd fair glow every damn time, giving his fingers an affectionate squeeze in turn, my ardent, chivalrous beau. On my end, I blasted our coupled-up status all over my social media, cheeky photos cuddled up together, regrams of Aaron's romantic gestures, you name it, sappily hashtagging everything with... Finally, and Lucky Luck did it. Let the world be jealous that I'd snagged this tall, ripped piece of eye candy for myself. I've been hiding for too long. Of course, not everyone was celebrating our new relationship status with us. My annoying neighbor, Mrs. Imelda, seemed to make it her personal mission to rain on our parade. "Morning, lovebirds," she'd sneer whenever she saw Aaron and me coming or going, laying on a thick coating of sarcasm. One time she even not so subtly whipped out a Bible and started quoting scriptures about sexual immorality as we passed by. I thought Aaron was going to burst a blood vessel, trying not to tell her off. I tried to just brush it off with an eye roll, ignore her crappy holier than, "Thou ass," I'd mutter, pulling Aaron inside where we could steal kisses without her pious glare. But the gossip monger's antics took a nastier turn after I posted a particularly cuddly picture of us on Instagram. Comments started appearing from some conservative relatives and former church friends, all but accusing me of corrupting a good Christian man with my sinful lifestyle. That's when my mom finally intervened. "You two are absolutely glowing together," she gushed one night over lasagna at my place. "Don't let small minds diminish your happiness, my hijo." I felt myself getting a little misty at her unconditional support. My big teddy bear of a dad just clapped Aaron on the back heartily, his way of saying he had our backs too. With their loving acceptance, the rest of the scornful noise just faded into background static. All that mattered was how deliriously happy Aaron and I were together at last. A few months into our relationship, Aaron and I got an invite to our college alumni reunion. Part of me was nervous about going. That campus held a lot of conflicted memories of yearning looks, missed chances, and hiding my true self. But this time I wouldn't be attending alone or closeted. This time I had my proud, sexy-as-hell boyfriend on my arm. We could go and make a statement just by existing joyfully as ourselves. Still, when we first arrived at the event hall, my throat went a little dry, seeing all those familiar faces from our shared past. Aaron must have sensed my unease because he pulled me against his side with a reassuring arm around my waist. "Remember, it's just you and me, babe," he murmured, placing a grounding kiss to my temple. "Fuck what anyone else thinks." I managed a shaky laugh at that. Such a sweet talker. Turned out we had nothing to be anxious about. Most of our old college crew embraced us with warm welcomes and zero judgment when they saw us hand in hand. A few envious hoots even came our way about Aaron's rugged stud status, all in good fun. Of course, one person had to try raining on our parade. Naomi, Aaron's radiant, then rotten ex, came swanning over with her sycophantic entourage in tow. Well, doesn't this just take the gay cake?" she sniped with an ugly smirk. A few of her lackeys snickered mockingly. But before I could fire back, Our other friends rallied around us in a circle of total acceptance and support. Don't be jealous because they've clearly got more game than you, Naomi. Yeah, let the lovebirds be, girl. Naomi looked utterly gobsmacked at having her mean girl antics backfire so spectacularly. With one last venomous glare, she stormed off in a huff. Aaron just chuckled and pulled me in for a sound kiss, uncaring of any audience. Screw her, he purred against my lips. Tonight is all about celebrating us. The rest of the reunion was like one big celebration for Aaron and me. We laughed and reminisced with old friends, proudly introducing each other as boyfriends. At one point, Aaron pulled me onto the dance floor for a cheesy slow song, holding me flush against his body as we swayed together. I could feel a few stray glances our way, but they just made me grin and snuggle closer to my man. Having a good time, Aaron murmured against my temple. The best. I craned up to catch his lips in a soft, lingering kiss. Who cares what anyone thinks? We're the golden couple here tonight. He laughed warmly at that. Damn right we are. The whole night felt like an exhilarating reclamation of our past. Not to change it, but to embrace it fully as our authentic selves. No more hiding, no more holding back. Just proud love out in the open. As the party was winding down in the wee hours, Aaron and I stole one last dance amid the twinkling lights and nostalgic atmosphere. I rested my cheek against his chest, inhaling his achingly familiar scent as we slowly revolved in a loose circle. Hey, I murmured, remember back in sophomore year at that lame frat party when Psych 101 bonded over how awful the music was? Aaron chuckled, the rumble vibrating against my jaw. You mean when I shamelessly geeked out over your alternative taste in bands? I wanted to kiss you so damn badly that night. Hearing that made my heart swell with a mix of tenderness and joyful regret for all the wasted years. I tipped my face up to brush a feather-like kiss across his stubbly jaw. Better late than never, right, stud? His response was to tighten his embrace and slant his mouth over mine in a heated kiss that had me melting against him, a fervent promise that we'd spend forever making up for lost time. Later that night, Aaron and I tumbled into the back seat of an Uber, unable to keep our hands off each other. The alcohol buzz and thumping music from the reunion had our blood racing hotly. Can't wait to get you home, Aaron growled, knitting along my jaw. His hands were already roaming over my body insistently. I let out a breathy laugh, exhibitionistic, but I arched shamelessly into his touch all the same. Any lingering shyness had been chased away by the thrill of being so publicly, unabashedly ours. The poor Uber driver kept sneaking awkward glances in the rearview mirror as we made out sloppily, clothes getting disheveled. At one point, Aaron bunched up my shirt and started mouthing at my ab. Oh, for Christ's sake, the driver finally burst out. You two need to cool it until we get where you're going. Grinning wickedly, Aaron trailed hot, open-mouthed kisses back up to my lips as I shuddered beneath him. Whatever you say, sir. We made it back to his place in record time. The second the door closed behind us, we were a flurry of hungry hands and breathless curses, trying toward each other of clothing as quickly as possible. Finally naked, Aaron walked us backwards to the bedroom, our bodies sliding deliciously together. When the backs of my legs hit the mattress, he tumbled me down onto it and prowled over me with a molten look. Our lovemaking that night was equal parts tender and voracious, making up for all the years of longing with each passionate rock of our bodies. We chased our releases again and again until we were both utterly spent. Sometime later, I blinked awake in the tangle of rumpled sheets and tangled limbs. Moonlight was slanting through the floor, to ceiling windows, casting everything in a silvery, dreamlike glow. Aaron was watching me with heavy-lidded eyes, face relaxed in repose. I traced the curve of his smiling lips with my fingertip. Hey there, gorgeous, I murmured. He captured my wrist and brushed a kiss over my knuckles. I told you lately, I am. My heart felt so full it could have burst right then and there. Luckiest two bastards alive, I agreed fervently. As the pale light of dawn started filtering through the windows, I lay there marveling at how incredible my life had become. Just months ago, I was the same lonesome artist I'd been for years, pursuing my passion projects, but privately nursing that dull ache you only get from a dream deferred. Now here I was, spent and gloriously sated in the arms of the man I had longed for since college. We'd wasted so many years acting like mere acquaintances when the crackling tension between us should have combusted ages ago. But as Aaron slumbered peacefully beside me, face totally unguarded, I knew we'd be making up for it for the rest of our lives. This was just the start of our grand romance, the beginning of chasing all the happiness that life had deprived us of until now. Tracing the contours of his chiseled features, I marveled at the journey that had led us here, from furtive, yearning glances across calls to finally indulging our unbreakable connection. No more hiding, no more repression. We'd face down the demons of internalized shame and small-minded bigotries to embrace this profound love. As Aaron instinctively tucked me closer in his sleep, a contented smile curved my lips. Forget the haters and naysayers. This bliss was worth fighting for. I was determined to soak up every moment without apology. Pressing a soft kiss to his slumbering mouth, I burrowed gratefully against the solid warmth of him. "I love you, Aaron Gomez," I whispered, and I meant it with every fiber of my being. This was our destiny finally being realized. At long last, we'd found our way home to each other's arms.